Well, hello everyone. Of course, it is me, Scott. That's right, that guy that you occasionally stumble across here on YouTube. We are finally at part 5, that's right, of the Trick or Treat Studios, aka TOTS, Halloween 2018 rehaul tutorial part 5. Now, I want to apologize real quick for the echo. Yes, the echo in the room. Believe me, as I speak at this moment, I'm like, ugh. When I'm editing the videos, I'm not a fan of it, but I'm in my garage, of course. I got concrete, drywall. There's nothing to help soundproof this garage. And by all means, I'm not really looking to do that. Now you watch. I'll end up doing more videos down the road where I'm gonna want it. You know what, that's my problem, not yours. So once again, I do apologize for that echo. Second, I am going to dwell on having a little patience is definitely gonna pay off. And I'm gonna point out this right here. You notice how, if you're a Myers fan, you can tell that's not right. You know, the black right there. But it's not a big deal, it's a very easy fix. I mean, if you were watching, what, part 4? Yeah, part 4, where I was preparing, washing, weathering, spraying the black over the mask. Well, that's all that is right there. I just didn't clean that area well enough. So I'm gonna do that before I actually start working on what I'm gonna actually do to this mask. And that is to tone down the over dominance of the black lines that you see right here. Now, this is a good problem to have. The reason why I'm stating that is when I go through the process of trying to tone this down, by this being very dominant, the black cracks that is, it's gonna be easier for me to control that. And it all makes sense to what I'm doing once I go through that process. No, think of the film itself, the mask in the film. This is the one time, or the one out of the 3, where we actually do get to see the mask during natural lighting. Think about it, in HK and ends, every time we seen the mask, it was at nighttime. So we never really got a true shot of how the mask was looking in the film, which kind of sucked. But the 2018, you'll notice that in the film, these lines, it's not that dominant. And I'm trying to justify my camera lens and everything else at this point. But my eyes are telling me these are way too dark, but that's a good thing because like I said, what I'm gonna do next, it's gonna tone it down, make it look a little more natural and aged. So let's get to it. But first, let me kind of clean it up a little bit and I'll show you what the hell I was rambling on about. Okay, I've got a great angle of the camera right now. So as you can see, the weathering turned out really fantastic, but it's just too much. It's just oversaturated. It's too dominant. It's just too black, right? So I need to tone that down, but that's okay. As I'm finishing up the painting process here, I'll do that very easily with some white coats out of this kit that I bought from Hobby Lobby. Yeah, that cosplay wood and leather kit, where there's 2 tones that I'm going to use. It's a white and a buttermilk, mixed with water, not alcohol, and I'll explain why. Yes, I'm just using the white and the buttermilk, mainly the white, not so much the buttermilk. Like say for an example, say 6 parts, like 6 drops of the white, then 2 parts of the buttermilk. Now I'm gonna add water. I'm gonna completely avoid alcohol as I finish the painting process of this mask. The reason why, okay, we'll go back to the weathering, right? Here on the 2018, yes, I used alcohol as a thinner. Now alcohol, what is it gonna do to your paint? Well, it's gonna dilute some of the pigment in your paint. It's also gonna dry it out much quicker. The finish is gonna look more flat. It's gonna look more dry. But as you notice that when I use the wash with that, paint, the brown, the black, which is the colors that I used, with the alcohol, I overkilled the spray. And when I cleaned it off, boom, as you can see, the results were fantastic. On an HK, unfortunately, I don't know why, at least in my experience, when they sculpted or whatever with that mask, they didn't concentrate nearly as much on the age, the crack line, nearly as much like say on the right side where the mask is not burnt, at least around the eyes. So if you used the alcohol as a thinner, what's going to happen? Well, of course, it's going to thin down that paint. The pigment's going to be a little bit lighter. And as you're trying to remove some of that wash, you might find it to be very challenging. So avoid using alcohol on the HK. Use your paints, thinning down with water. At least that's what I would do, and that's what I highly recommend. Okay, here we are out in the kitchen, my wonderful ugly ass kitchen. Yes, trying to finish up part 5, and I do apologize for the delay on this. And 1, 2, and 3 came out pretty quick. 4 a week later, and 5 hopefully about the same. I've just been busy at work, guys. I'm sorry, just work's been a little bit more demanding here lately, and well, you know how it is. If you've got responsibilities, you need that job to take care of your bills. So yeah, that, and of course when you make plans, well, you get my point. Oh, and another thing too. My dumbass accidentally deleted a couple video files. Yeah, never done that before. But yeah, I deleted a couple things that you missed out, but it's okay. I'll go over it once again. I'm not going to physically do it once again, but I'll talk about what you missed out. Okay, last time I was out there in the garage, basically trying to tone down these aged crack lines by, you know, spraying it very lightly with some more of that kind of an off-white, that, you know, paint that I was using. And I knew that this was going to happen, and this is what you missed out on. I was talking about, okay, now I covered probably way too much on these age lines. That's okay, not a big deal. I knew it was going to happen. Like I said, I described it in the video, and this is what I did. I took some of my distilled water, I sprayed it on a soft cloth, and just went over the mask, you know, the face of the mask, the neck. Not too much, just a little bit. Then I take a soft brush like this one right here, and I dip it in, and out here I pour some. By the way, hold on to these. If you do end up investing in some alcohol containers, these things are perfect to when you're mixing paint. Well, I poured a little bit of that the black and brown with the 70% alcohol that I was using for the wash, because I still got tons of it, but I poured some in here, and I just, let's say hypothetically, dipped it in my glass again. Since the mask is a little bit wet, I actually spray the brush too. I make sure that the brush is already wet, because I really want what's already very thin. I want it even just as thin, and yeah, you're, wait a minute, you got water. It doesn't matter, you know, water on the mask, because this is water-based paint, all of it is, so we're safe to go. Then I just kind of go over it, and keep in mind, if you haven't been using a brush yet at this point, make sure your surface is a surface that you're not afraid to get dirty, because it's going to get dirty from all the paints and all that. And that's another great thing about this type of paint, from the acrylics and all that with the water, it cleans off. So that's that. If you are like working right here, I hope to, if you live with mom and dad, make sure you clean that up before they see it, because mom's going to freak out. Then again, go someplace else to work, because I don't want mom and dad to hear me say what I just said, because then they're going to get pissed off at me. But yeah, make sure you have a surface that you can work on, that you're not afraid to get dirty. There we go. But yeah, just go over the mask with that wash in areas. And it may look pretty clear, but somewhat dark, that's okay, because you want it to be more clear than dark. Then go over and kind of tap dry it again, or use your hair dryer. Really, at this point, I wouldn't worry about your hair dryer, but just kind of tap dry it, maybe use your fingers. But by all means, use a hair dryer if necessary. Just put it on low, not high, and just kind of tap it dry, okay? Let it sit. I know you've heard me say this. You're probably thinking, well, dear Lord, Scott, if I have to be as patient as you are with the mask, it's going to take me a year to finish it. Believe it or not, it won't take you nearly as long as it's taken me to do this, because like I said, work's been busier. But if you're like me and you've got a lot of other things going on in your life, then by the time you get back to this mask doing certain steps, then you've had enough patience with it. So yeah, let it dry. Because the good news is, not only were you trying to get these age lines to pop a little bit more, you were actually weathering that very, well, white mask again. So that's what it ended up looking like. It toned it down. So I killed 2 birds with 1 stone. Now, let's say after, well, there's been at least, I think, 2 other times I did that, you know, weathered it down again. I was satisfied, but I've noticed something, and there was somebody who left in, I believe, in step 4, to more or less paraphrase, still having issues getting some of these lines to stay in, especially with that HK. And oh boy, that HK. I think I already talked about it in a voiceover. But here's what I would do. Okay, here's a brush. A brush with a tip that kind of feels like a Sharpie. Now I want to point that out very clearly. How many photos have you seen or looked at, whether it was on Google most likely, and you have either yourself, and I was guilty doing it one time, and never again will I do it again, where I freehand some of the age lines on there and it looked like shit. No offense to anybody out there that's done it. Like I said, I've done it too. It just doesn't look that good when you freehand it. There's probably, you know, I know there's some artists out there that's been working on these sort of things. They're professionals that could do it, and they would laugh at me right now for even watching any of these tutorials, but they could probably freehand this cracks in it. It would look fantastic. Does Christopher Nelson do it on some of the masks that he's worked on for the film? Probably. But I don't know for sure. It looks like it in some of the photos, but you know what? That's okay. He's allowed to. Because if it wasn't for him, we wouldn't have these. And he knows what the hell he's doing. So, yeah, he could do it, and it looks fantastic. But no, I can't. And from what others well, you get my point. But here's what you could do with using a brush, even if you're not very confident, or if you tried it before, try this. And even off camera, I feel confident enough that I can do it to where I don't screw it up. All right, now I've got some of this. I've already poured it into the lid because I don't need a whole lot at this point. I take that brush that's got a very stubborn tip where it's not very flexible. Like I said, it kind of feels like the tip of a marker. I take some of this black paint, I'm sure you can see. All right, just dip it in there. Get this paper towel. Wipe it a couple times. I did it 3 times. And I find a line, not all of them, but just one of them. And I can just go like this. Let me do it one more time because I think I screwed up there. Dip it in there. Take a paper towel. I just wipe it twice. And then I'll go this line right here. Now it looks like I didn't do diddly squat. And you're right, I probably didn't. And that's fine. If I do that a couple times, in other words, do it, let it dry, or if I maybe go outside the line, I can take my finger and remove it, and you're not even gonna notice it. Sure enough, you come back later and you look at maybe where you have taken your brush in certain places and it might look a little bit darker. That's because there was a little bit of paint at the end of your brush and you were able to fill in certain parts where it was a pain. Now I'm gonna wipe it off again. This right here I had issues with. I'm not gonna fill it anymore because I don't want to put too much. Put one right here. My eye sees where it got a little bit darker. The camera probably didn't pick it up because I don't have a $5,000 lens that's doing a macro on that section, but trust me, it went in there. If it felt like it was too much, once again, I would just go like this. Your finger alone, or if you want to take a very soft tissue and wipe, I would use your finger. I seem to have better luck with it. So yeah, try that method. See if that helps you out. It helps me out. It keeps it from looking way too silly, and it makes it for even somebody with not the steadiest hands. And keep in mind, I'm kind of off camera. I would rather be doing this while I'm doing that, or I'm closer, where I feel more confident. But that ought to tell you right there how easy it is to still use it and look like, wow, I'm amazing. All right, the next thing that I deleted, and I'm gonna end up doing anyways off camera again, but at least I'll describe it to you. I've already started right here around the eyes, on the lips, around the neck, and up here up on the sides. I added a little bit of what I call it dirt. In other words, a brown that's somewhere between a light brown, kind of yellow. It's just like a dirt, like an earth color, you know what I mean? But light, and I put it on light. In other words, I use it with water, base. I don't use alcohol at this point, but I water it down very carefully, and I use a soft brush like this one, and I basically kind of go over it. I freehand it, and it's going to get messy. That's okay. And then I take another towel and I kind of tap over it a little bit, and I use my fingers too. I like getting my hands dirty on these bad boys. I do the same thing around the eyes and the lips. And I'll let it dry for a while. and then I come back to see how it looks. I don't want to do it too dark, because if it's too dark, then I got to remove paint, and I don't want to do that. In other words, I don't want to remove thicker paints. I like to work my way up in stages. The reason why is, if I could do that, I could control it more. If I put too much on, then I have to remove way too much, and therefore I may run into a situation that I don't want to do, and that is get to the point where, oh crap, I may have screwed something up and I got to start all over again. You don't want to do that. So for me, what works for me is I work my way up with very light layers of tones, especially on the 2018. Now I'm going to do that again. I'm going to add a little bit more. I'm actually going to take these lips. They've got a nice flesh tone. They're a little dirty, but I'm going to probably add a little bit more. In other words, I'm going to emphasize, try to get these a little bit more gray, because it seems like every image that I've seen from 2018, whether it's a shot where it's at night or day, the lips seem to be a little bit darker than they are right now. Oh, and blood. I kind of had some already, but it's been wiped off. That's okay, not a big deal. I have some that's still down here underneath the chin. And oh yeah, the blood that I'm using now, I wish I had started this when I was working on, I think I did about 24, if not more, HK rehauls last year. And I want to say only about a half a dozen of them I did the blood theory this way. You know what? I at least saved this file because I recorded it from my phone. Let me show you the old classic way of how to make blood. You're going to be, if you don't know this already, you're going to be like, holy crap, it's that easy? Here, let me show you. All right, here are the ingredients that I use to make blood. It is so simple, and it's been around for generations, many generations. Corn syrup, food coloring, and of course I just use Q-tips to stir it up. Yeah, you're gonna see how easy. If I could do this with one hand, then anybody can. Then again, if you only have one hand, you know what? I'm not gonna get into all the details. My whole point is this stuff is so easy to make, fake blood. You don't need a whole lot, but then again, it depends on how much fake blood you need, of course. But since I'm only working on this particular mask right now, I don't need a whole lot. So I'm just gonna put, about that much in there. No fancy measurements needed. Now, 2 colors. Yes, of course, as we all know, red. And yes, believe it or not, blue. I really wish I did have somebody right now holding my phone doing this. Or I could have brought my camera with the tripod, but you know what? I'm not gonna do that. That's just, for the purpose of this video, what I'm doing right now, I just wanna prove to you how simple this is. Now, of course, I'm starting with the red. Now, I'm gonna try to do this very carefully because, you know, I am recording a video. I'm just going to put about maybe 4 drops. I'm going to put that lid back on, or at least move it to the side so I don't accidentally knock it over. Now the blue. Oh, and by the way, I don't think I've mentioned it enough in this video. No matter what paint you're using, even from food color, always shake before you add it to any, well, in this case, a cup. Always shake your paint, no matter what. Now, I'm just gonna add 1 drop of blue, 1 drop, that's it. So I put 4 parts of red, 1 drop blue, that's it, no more. You carefully put that to a side. I'll put those caps on there later. Take a Q-tip and just stir. This is the hardest part because I'm not using 2 hands. It's pretty thick, of course. Right now it probably looks black. I'm assuming just from looking through my phone. But believe it or not, by the time you're done stirring this completely, it's really giving off a more reddish brown, more realistic approach. Maybe you could see it now, hard to say. If I lift this up, see what I mean? It's really hard to tell right now, but trust me, I've been using this for blood on HKs, and I'm going to use it now for the 2018 in the locations that, well, at least they've shown it off in the film. And I'm going to use a Q-tip, not an airbrush. Don't want to put this corn syrup to the airbrush. I'm going to use a Q-tip to apply, and my own fingers. Beauty of it is it washes right off. So that's how you make blood. Like I said, it's been around. They've used it in films for many years before you and I were even born. So I'm gonna go apply this to the mask. Like I said, I just use a Q-tip. And I just get the tip of it a little wet. And I carefully graze the mask. Use my finger a little bit. I put it on lightly. Use my imagination. So I'm gonna go apply this to the mask. Yep, it's got the color I want. And on a white mask, that looks very real. Oh, and it always has a very shiny look, wet look to it as well. Especially when you spray some Plasti Dip or some Mod Podge just to protect it. There you go. Red blood. Very cheap and very easy. So yeah, it's just that simple. That's how I make blood. It looks fantastic. Like say on the HKs, we're on the right side here with the bullet, you know, wound, it's just a flesh wound as I call it, but it looks fantastic on that. This, because it's more dry, it doesn't have the same effect. You could really use some red paint, some acrylic paint to do that because it's going to look more crusty. Not to mention, when I add more brown, I'm probably going to also add a little bit of that dirt, earthed colors, the mix that I try to come up with. And I'll darken it up a little bit too. Here's something that I suggest you trying if you want. It's on the edge of the eye cutouts, right there on the edge, not the face of it, but on the edge. Some people do this with even the, let's say the 78s, or you know, the H1, I'm sorry, or the H2. Now the H2, you want more of a flesh tone. But you could take, like your, you know, the same brush or whatever, and darken the edge right there. I wouldn't make it completely black because then it'll look silly because there's nothing else on this mask that's completely black. You don't want that, it would look off. And just darken that edge, maybe a little bit more. That right there kind of helps the eyes look a little bit darker, but you don't want, like I say, you don't want to put it on the outside. Maybe if you want to put a little bit of a spray of a gray, that's really your call, but I like to use like the earth with the gray, kind of mix it up a little bit. In other words, I like to make these eyes look crusty. Yeah, a crusty, you know what, I'll just put it this way, some nasty old yellow crusty underwear stains. There you go. I said it out loud, folks. Yeah, some nasty, because as far as I'm concerned, this mask is 40 years old. It's been aged, it's been through hell and back. I don't want these eye cutouts to look very clean, but not too much. You just got to find the sweet spot. Use your best judgment. So that's what I'm going to do off camera, kind of bounce off certain areas a little bit more, and you'll see the final product. Oh yeah, and I like getting this a little dirty down here too as well, because it seems like all of them have it that way, but not too much, because if you look carefully, the mask is not completely black back. I've done that before, and you know what, it doesn't matter. Every time you work on these, you always do something differently with them, that's for sure. So yeah. So that's going to pretty much end it for part 5 finally. When we come back to part 6, you will see, I want to say 98% of this mask done on the face, the neck and all that. Because usually what I do after I'm satisfied with the herring, sometimes I'll go up in this area and try to match it a little bit. Or I'm always feeling like I can't stop touching the damn mask when it comes to paint until it either goes out the door or I'm just, that's it. I got to quit. I got to walk away. Because, you know, for some of us, we're such perfectionists at this thing, are never satisfied. So that's my issue there. But yeah, part 6, I will go over the wool that I'm using, how I'm going to dye it, the stuff that I use to dye it, and how I prep it, which is all this stuff, believe it or not, is very easy to do. And then, of course, I'll be herring the mask. Now, when it comes to me actually herring the mask, you know what? I'll save that for part 6 because I know I've rambled on way too much right here. So yeah, there you go. Well, folks, if you've enjoyed these videos, by all means, if you haven't yet subscribed, please do so. Hit that subscribe button. And of course, if you're new here, yeah, what are you waiting for? Just like I told the other guys, hit that subscribe button. Of course, that notification bell, because who knows? YouTube might actually live up to their terms and notify you the next time I upload a video. And of course, a thumbs up. Yes, a thumbs up will help me out. In other words, I do my part by uploading videos, but I'm asking you to do something free for me, and that's give me a thumbs up, because it will help me out a little bit more, get more popular in the algorithm. But I still firmly believe I'm the one that has to push out the content. So yeah. Well, I hope you enjoyed this part of the video more, because my ugly face wasn't on it, so there was a benefit there. And like I said, I do apologize for the delay and for some of those videos that I cut out. Alrighty, well, I'll see you soon in part 6. I hope you're looking forward to the hairy part of the tutorial. Haha, that was funny, Scott. My side is hurting. I'm shutting up. See you guys.